Clyde, got him!
South Park is continuing their new season, and they are totally out for blood. So, just 2 weeks ago, South Park lit the world on fire with the first episode of the 27th season of the show, where Trump appears. And they ruthlessly made fun of him and also their parent company Paramount for kowtowing to his censorship. It was absolutely an amazing episode, and it caused a lot of people to feel like South Park was back in a really big way, and it was the talk of the town for quite a while. And now, the South Park gods themselves have blessed us with yet another incredible episode that makes fun of ICE, Charlie Kirk, anti-woke podcasters, and so much more. It is absolutely fiendishly incredible. Matt and Trey have really been firing all missiles at the Trump administration in this new season, and that's largely to get revenge on Paramount for delaying their new season for so long and screwing them over. The first episode of this season featured an incredibly cartoonish caricature of Donald Trump with a major lack of endowment, so to speak. It also featured PC Principal converting himself to Power Christian Principal and putting Jesus in the school in order to match the ever-changing cultural shift. And all throughout this episode, Cartman is feeling incredibly depressed since with the rise of anti-woke culture, a lot of people are saying the same things he used to and also making a profit off of it, causing him to not feel as special. Gee, funny how that works, and funny enough, this second episode actually doubled down on that especially, which we'll get into here. The bar was honestly set really high with the first episode of this season, so I was very worried whether this episode would live up to it or not, but needless to say, I think it actually really did. Of course, there are plenty of shots still taken at Trump himself in this episode, but they also went about lampooning Christi Noem, Charlie Kirk, and even the Vice President, JD Vance himself, which was absolutely amazing. Man, Matt and Trey are really going full scorched earth this season. So today, let's talk about the latest South Park episode, why it's amazing satire, just like the first episode, and also what the real goal of this episode was, because just like the first episode, there actually was a deeper goal with this one too. Also, just like the last video I did in the new season, if you see any anime girl gifs on screen, it's to dodge copyright. Paramount is really bad about the new season for some reason, so I have to keep doing this. But hey, I'm just happy to talk about these new episodes, to be honest. So come on down and meet some friends of mine and let's talk about South Park Season 27, Episode 2. The episode starts off with Kyle and Wendy discussing their disdain for someone who has apparently created a podcast where they voice their hateful beliefs on Jews and women. Now who within South Park has shown that they consistently hate Jews and also women? I wonder. What a complete mystery. Just then, the culprit rounds the corner, the person that's been hosting this hateful podcast, and it's Clyde.
Clyde? Yeah, in a stupid debating podcast. Whatever, guys. Prove me wrong.
Not really what anyone is expecting there. And it's here you already start to see some of the genius within this episode. While this episode very easily could have just passed off the role of the hateful bigot to Cartman as it usually does, they actually chose to use Clyde instead here. Out of nowhere, Clyde has started a podcast where he challenges people to debate him and tries to debunk quote-unquote wokeness. And apparently has a platform where he quote-unquote owns woke liberals. This sounds like a very Cartman thing to do, but instead it's Clyde adopting this attitude since now he sees it's profitable.
Hey, I'm just trying to make my nut, man. My nut's about $60 a week. So, you know, as a kid, if you could do a podcast, say some really divisive you could make your nut.
This, of course, is directly satirizing anti-woke grifters like Nerdrotic or The Critical Drinker, but more specifically, people like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is one of those kinds of anti-woke grifters you'll usually see on a college campus trying to quote-unquote own woke liberals in a debate session. He usually tries to use unsuspecting college kids that might not know any better for his audience or his debatee, since really it's very easy to see through his arguments oftentimes, since he just uses a straw man argument. And fortunately, this has caused him himself to be owned many a times on stage, which is pretty funny.
Also because of the domestic labor in homes that is structured around outdated expectations. So for example, studies like the OECD's Better Life Index show that women's life expectancy, education levels, professional achievements have risen in countries with higher gender inequality. So I would argue that what you're calling unhappiness is actually visibility, because now we hear women expressing dissatisfaction, whereas in the 50s, we prescribed them Valium and we lobotomized.
That's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny.
Gee, it's almost like women weren't really heard 50 years ago like they are now, Charlie. I swear, watching this guy is so funny sometimes. And now it looks like South Park is directly satirizing Charlie Kirk, using Clyde as a sort of stand-in for him as someone who tries to debate different people at South Park Elementary and quote-unquote own them. As a result, he ends up getting talked to by Mr. Mackey, the school counselor, who chastises Clyde, for spreading these hateful beliefs and hosting his podcast. However, as it turns out, Clyde only wants to host this podcast so he can get his nut, as he calls it. Funny enough, Clyde doesn't actually believe most of the stuff he's saying, he's just saying it because it makes him money. I find this really funny because especially with a lot of the anti-woke grifters, some of them don't even really believe some of the things they say, good examples being Neurotic and the Critical Drinker. While there definitely are anti-woke quote-unquote critics out there who actually do believe the things they're saying, like Heel vs. Babyface or Andy Pants Gaming, I think at least to some degree, channels like Neurotic and the Critical Drinker totally know what they're saying isn't true, but they're just saying it anyway because it's profitable. It's a big reason why someone like the Critical Drinker often has a lot of hypocrisy with the things he reviews, like how he gave Mulan from 1988 a good review, but he gave Prey a bad review, because he thought it embodied the quote-unquote girl boss trope, which is funny because that and Mulan literally have the same exact plot in a lot of ways. And really, that's kind of what Clyde is doing here exactly too. He really doesn't believe the things he's saying, but he's just saying it because it gets him attention and profit. He is, in a very literal sense, an anti-woke grifter, and Cartman is not happy about this at all. As was discussed in the last episode, Cartman is not happy at all about a lot of anti-woke people being out there and the rise of anti-woke culture overall, because now he doesn't feel special anymore for being a bigot. And now that Clyde has also jumped in on this and is getting widespread attention for this, he's really unhappy, so he ends up paying a visit to Clyde's podcast.
What the hell do you think you're doing, Clyde? We're here speaking the truth about the Jews or the other privileged white class. That's my stick! Knock it out, Clyde! You stole my idea!
Clyde is saying the exact same kinds of things that Cartman always has, except he has a podcast and he's getting paid and sponsored to say it. The irony is absolutely delicious here. I also feel like this is a satire of how a lot of the anti-woke grifters actually fail to see the satire behind a character like Cartman oftentimes. Cartman is deliberately set up to be the character that you don't want to be like in every episode, and he's often shown to be in the wrong, and he's never justified for what he does. It is almost never that you see Cartman commended for any of his actions in any episode. But funny enough, you'll actually often see a lot of anti-woke grifters try to use Cartman as an example of someone being based or proving their arguments right. And I think one of the funniest things about this is that Charlie Kirk also did this leading up to the release of this episode. Charlie actually saw that he was going to be parodied in this episode, and failing to see that the episode was going to parody him, he actually changed his PFP on Twitter to be Cartman. And also every other social media channel he has as well, saying he was really excited to see this episode. Gee, I wonder what he thinks of it now that it's actually out. Sometimes fiction does mirror reality. It seemed that Charlie failed to comprehend that he was going to be completely made fun of in this episode, and oh boy, he certainly was. Meanwhile, while Cartman is arguing with Clyde, Mr. Mackey has actually been laid off from the school by PC principal. It seems now with the school cutting back on unnecessary funding under the Trump administration, Mr. Mackey is no longer needed since now they have Jesus in the school, so they don't need the school counselor anymore. So as a result, Mr. Mackey is left trying to figure out how he's gonna get his nut. He ends up talking to a financial expert who tells him of a certain organization that just so happens to be hiring anyone currently.
Well, there are other career opportunities. Have you considered a job with the ICE?
Yes, that's right. It seems despite being against it, Mr. Mackey has no real choice but to save his finances by applying to ICE. And as you can probably imagine, their application process is about as airtight as a hot air balloon in the desert.
What makes you want to work for immigration enforcement?
You see, I got a nut.
All right, you're hired. Take this to the next station for your physical and orientation video.
Well, that's it?
Wow, good job, guys. What an efficient background check. It seems just about anyone is getting into ICE here, and Mr. Mackey is incredibly concerned, but goes forward knowing he needs the money. He and the other applicants are greeted by a pre-recorded video of Christi Noem, the head of ICE, and her intro here is absolutely amazing.
Because sometimes doing what's important means doing what's hard. As the face of Homeland Security, I'll be leading the way. And together we'll make sure everyone is in this country legally. So let's get out there and get them, recruits.
So, of course, South Park is making fun of the fact that Christi Noem is very clearly the product of a lot of plastic surgery, a lot of makeup, and a lot of Botox. And it's really funny how they play with that throughout this entire orientation video. But they also make fun of the fact that Christi Noem actually did admit to killing one of her dogs.
Christi Noem speaking out in her first TV interview about fatally shooting her dog because she says the animal was untrainable.
She attacked me, and it was a hard decision decision.
Noem first made the revelation in her new autobiography, No Going Back.
It was a dog that was extremely dangerous. It had come to us from a family who had found her way too aggressive. Sean, you know how the fake news works. They leave out some or most of the facts of a story. They put the worst spin on it.
Only someone like Christi Noem could talk about killing her dog in her own autobiography. Sometimes I wish I was making this stuff up. After seeing this pretty atrocious orientation, Mr. Mackey is sent off with the other recruits to go on their first ice raid. Oh boy. Meanwhile, while this is going on, Clyde is back at the school hosting a debate on the elementary school playground. It seems he's keen to quote-unquote own the woke liberals with facts and logic, although it kinda just seems like he's more bringing up random things out of nowhere, just like the real Charlie Kirk does.
Well, you said nothing good ever came from the Jews, but if that's true, why are bagels so yummy? Well, you've obviously been taught by the Jews to have a problem with this school and with America, so let me ask you this. What is your definition of a woman? What is my what?
Do you agree that the happiest women of the West are married with kids?
I would have to look into it, but I think there are certain
right?
studies
and objectively, we know that, right? The women with kids are not the ones tearing down statues, right? They're the ones that actually have obligations.
Tearing down statues correspond to some kind of smiles per capita data set that I wasn't aware of.
Again, it's like, it's a little bit of a one-liner. The happy and the grateful. The happy and the grateful usually don't go burn down Wendy's in their spare time.
A lot of the stuff in this episode totally mirrors the stuff that Charlie brought up when he got owned at Cambridge a few months ago, and it's absolutely amazing. However, it seems that Cartman has had enough of Clyde taking his place as the quote-unquote master debater and beats him up and takes his spot on the podium instead. And of course now he's styled his hair to look exactly like Charlie Kirk.
So let's go! Who wants to debate the master debater?
That's the stupidest haircut I've ever seen.
Shut up, baby! You just hate America and you love abortions!
However, because of this, it's not too long before Cartman gets totally addicted to master debating, as he calls it, and he ends up doing it on the toilet when his mom walks by.
So let me ask you, when do you think life begins?
Eric, are you all right in there?
Yeah, I'm fine, Mom. I'm just in here master debating.
Well, Eric, that's enough. Let's get out of the bathroom.
I can't, Mom. I'm master debating to these young college girls.
That's very naughty, Eric. Stop it.
This, of course, makes for some really funny innuendo and gags. Meanwhile, for Mr. Mackey and Ice, things have also taken a less desirable turn there, since now they're going to raid Dora the Explorer Live, since they think there's going to be a lot of Hispanics there to detain. They end up arresting Dora, Diego, and pretty much the whole audience, and of course Christi takes this opportunity to shoot another dog, a service dog this time. Wow. The complete lampooning of Ice throughout this entire episode is actually even funnier when you know the fact that recently Ice put on their Twitter page a screenshot of this episode. Specifically, they used a screenshot of Christi and the others in the Ice vehicle as a way to try and advertise recruitment for Ice apparently, since it seems they thought that this episode was advertising them when that's really very much the opposite of what's happening here. Once again, just like Charlie Kirk, it seems fiction mirrors reality. It's just so funny to me that neither of them could see behind the satire aimed at them in this episode. And of course they use this opportunity to take another shot at the fact that Christi wears so much makeup as well.
But we could use more men like you in the side.
Whoa! What the f?
Your Botox, Miss Noem? Oh yeah, fix me up.
Another day doing what's tough.
However, it seems the ice raid of the Dora the Explorer concert has caused a lot of protests here in Denver. One particular protester who ended up on the news had a lot of scathing things to say about ICE overall.
A lot of the people being targeted in these raids are kind, hardworking, deeply faithful people who care for their families. I have no doubt that there are many, many Latinos in heaven.
So, you might think after all these protests and seeing that all the media coverage of them has been pretty negative that ICE might give it a rest, huh? And you might think that they take this protester's words to heart about all Latinos going to heaven. Well, they don't do that. Instead, they go to heaven to try and capture the Latinos there. This episode is so incredible. And yet again, Christi finds another dog to shoot here. Wow, she really just can't stop, can she? After the ice raid on heaven, Christi tells Mackey that she thinks he's done a good job and he's gonna get promoted by the president and receive a bonus, but not before her makeup face falls off. The two consistent jokes with Christi in this episode somehow seem to be funny every time and just get more and more insane. Guess all she's good at is shooting dogs and wearing Botox. Meanwhile, now that he's participated in a lot of master debates, Cartman is currently attending the Charlie Kirk Master Debate Awards, because of course that's a thing. He's hoping after all the master debates he's participated in, he'll get a trophy for it and be recognized and get an award. But unfortunately, it seems once again he's one-upped by Clyde here. What a surprise. But once again, even when accepting this award, Clyde shows he doesn't really think this stuff and is just saying it for his own personal gain and profit since he's really half-hearted about it.
Thanks, everyone. The Civil Rights Act was a huge mistake, and, I don't know, lesbians are an abomination of God.
He never really cared about getting honored or receiving an award for this, he just wanted to get his nut. So being honored by the Charlie Kirk Master Debate Society isn't really a big thing for him at all, which kinda makes it all the more funny that Cartman is actually the one turned away by them. After winning the Master Debater Award, Clyde is actually given a paid vacation to Mar-a-Lago by the president himself. This does seem like a nice place to stay on the surface. Keyword seem, since it seems at the same time, Mr. Mackey has also won a vacation to Mar-a-Lago as well for being an upstanding member of ICE. It seems things are finally looking up for both Mackey and Clyde until they arrive at Mar-a-Lago.
Relax, take your load off. Boss, the plane is here from Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
It seems that Mar-a-Lago Island is none other than a fantasy island parody run by both Trump and now JD Vance, who is also getting skewered on this show. And it's here we get to exactly why this episode was really made. For those unaware, Fantasy Island was a late 70s show that starred a character named Mr. Rourke and his assistant Tattoo that would greet guests to different fantasies that they could live out on his magic island. In order to gain the fantasies, usually each guest would have to incur a huge cost, generally over $100,000. Although this cost could vary depending on the guest, since at one point one of Mr. Rourke's guests was a little girl who paid her entire piggy bank about $10 to have her fantasy with her father on the island. You can probably already start to begin to see where this is going in regards to Trump and JD Vance. In the case of this South Park episode, Trump is very clearly meant to be Mr. Rourke in this situation, and JD Vance is Tattoo. He's even very diminutive and baby-like in his form here. They also did the exact same thing they did to Trump and Saddam Hussein, where they don't even fully animate him, they just put a photo of his head over a cartoony little body. It's absolutely amazing. First JD Vance gets mocked at Disneyland, and then he gets mocked on South Park. The roasts really don't stop for this guy at all. Upon his arrival on the island, Mr. Mackey tells Trump that he needs help with his nut, since it seems even though he's making more money now, his nut has only gotten even bigger. So now, despite the fact that he's making more money, he has more cost to cover ultimately, huh? Funny, that's capitalism for ya, baby! Trump reassures him he can totally take care of this problem because, in his words, Mar-a-Lago's for everyone that has a nut. Trump also tells him that he wants him as the new face of Homeland Security now instead of Christi Noem, since, in his words, Christi Noem's face totally freaks him out. But even though this new position will definitely pay a lot more for Mr. Mackey, he very quickly finds out it has some, unfortunate implications.
Hey, Satan! Meet the new face of Homeland Security.
Whoa! Oh my God! I just want to go. This place is gross.
Would you like me to apply the baby oil to Satan's asshole, boss?
That's right, it looks like the director of Homeland Security is constantly in a threesome with Satan and Trump, which is like the worst thing ever. So this seems to imply that Christi Noem and Satan and Trump were constantly in a three-way here on this island, which is something I really wish was not in my mind now. And I have to live with that image now, so now you do too. You're welcome. Mr. Mackey, very rightfully so, is absolutely horrified at this idea and runs right out of the room when Trump is trying to coerce him. But unfortunately, it looks like things aren't much better all around the manor here. He walks in on several residents who are getting lubed up, one of which is even getting lubed up by Dora the Explorer of all people. And in the last room here, he finds Clyde, who has also been brought to the island to take care of his nut as well. Except, it seems like both for him and Mackey, this really isn't what they wanted at all. And here, the deeper layer behind this episode is completely exposed. The plot about Mr. Mackey joining ICE to quote-unquote get his nut, and Clyde becoming Charlie Kirk to also quote-unquote get his nut have completely converged here. And they've converged at a place that seems to be none other than a pretty blatant reference to Epstein Island. Oh no. For those who may recall, the Epstein list was actually referenced on the last South Park episode when Satan brought it up to Trump and he kept denying it and dismissing it and not wanting to talk about it.
Another random commented on my Instagram that you're on the Epstein list.
The Epstein list? Are we still talking about that?
Well, are you on the list or not? It's weird that whenever it comes up, you just tell everyone to relax.
I'm not telling everyone to relax. Relax, guy.
For those unaware, there's been a long-time theory of Trump himself being on the Epstein list, although there is yet to be definitive proof of this so far. However, much like Satan says here, whenever the list is brought up to Trump, he does just dismiss it, which is kind of funny to see satirized here. But now, Matt and Troy are directly attacking this in their attempt to rile up Trump here. They have created an entire Fantasy Island parody with Donald Trump and JD Vance, and also made it a huge reference to Epstein Island too. Just like they did with Trump's tiny penis in the last episode in the quote-unquote pro-Trump messaging that the town did in order to keep the lawsuit off their backs from Trump, this is also directly attacking and mocking a pretty well-circulated theory about Trump, just like the other stuff in the last episode. And just like that stuff, this is exactly Matt and Trey's attempt to rage bait Trump in order to get him to sue Paramount. Like I stated in my last video on the first episode of this season, Matt and Trey are incredibly pissed off at Paramount and want to screw them over since Paramount has screwed them over for the last 2 years now. Initially starting with the whole streaming wars nonsense that caused the latest season of South Park to be delayed by 2 years, and now the stuff with the Skydance merger that delayed the new season even further. Because of this, Matt and Trey have seemingly dedicated this entire new season of South Park to trying to rile up Trump so he'll go ahead and sue Paramount. I think the best part about this is, even if that does happen, Matt and Trey actually still win and Paramount loses. Since, as discussed previously, Matt and Trey actually forced Paramount to give them $1.5 billion if they wanted to stay with them. And Paramount knows that South Park is actually a really important IP for them to have a hold of, so of course they did oblige. And as soon as Matt and Trey had that $1.5 billion deal, not even until the ink was dry on the paper, they set about lampooning Trump in the newest episode so that he could get mad at Paramount. Matt and Trey are really the master trolls, and it's amazing. And they're doing the exact same thing here that they were doing in that first episode masterfully. They're making fun of Trump, and they're also making fun of the Epstein Island allegations that are lauded at him. It's absolutely incredible. So now it seems that Mackey and Clyde are stuck on totally not Epstein Island whether they like it or not. And they end up having a pretty insightful talk that makes them realize what they were doing in pursuit of money really wasn't worth it anyway.
But if you're doing something you don't really believe in, just to make your nut, you're gonna find that you just get sadder and your nut just gets bigger.
Wise words, Mackey, wise words. Too bad folks like the Critical Drinker or Nerdrotic can't quite seem to figure that out. After this, Clyde and Mr. Mackey ponder whether anyone will come to save them here on the island, but lo and behold, someone's on the way. It looks like none other than Crypto the Superdog is here to save... Oh. Well... Alright then, of course, none other than Christi has arrived and shot Crypto down from the sky in a pretty brutal manner. Jesus. She just can't quit, can she? She's pretty upset with Trump for replacing her as the leader of Homeland Security and decides to launch an all-out attack on him with the rest of ICE. Unfortunately for Christi, her face falls off again here and it becomes sentient and is crawling around on the floor in a horror movie-like manner. This episode was absolute gold, dude. Fortunately, Mackey, Clyde, and Dora are able to use this opportunity to escape totally not Epstein Island while everyone is distracted. And then her, Trump, JD Vance, and all of ICE celebrate by singing Peace on Earth. An amazing ending to an absolutely incredible episode. So I was definitely very nervous that this episode wouldn't live up to the previous one since there was obviously a very high bar set there, but I would say it absolutely did here. This episode ramped up the lampooning of the Trump administration even more, which, like I said before, is very intentional on Trey and Matt's part. They've gone from just making fun of Trump to now making fun of JD Vance, ICE, and Charlie Kirk, which is absolutely incredible. It seems this is gonna be the recurring theme for this season, making fun of the Trump administration and also making fun of anti-woke grifters, so I'm very curious to see who they make fun of on the third episode when that debuts. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to cover that as well when that comes out. But once again, I find it totally funny that both ICE and Charlie Kirk seem to completely miss that they were being made fun of in this episode before it released. Although I think you could take their reactions to the fact they realized they were going to be featured on the new South Park episode one of two ways. Either A, they're completely aloof and didn't realize they're going to be satirized here and mistook South Park featuring them as promotion for their platforms, or B, they realized they were going to get made fun of here and tried to soften the blow by passing it off as quote-unquote free promotion on their platforms. Either way, whatever happened here does seem pretty in line for these kind of people regardless. In Charlie Kirk's case, the latter seems more likely since he seemed to be pretty happy about South Park featuring him, and a lot of other anti-woke grifters in his circle also commented on this.
And I've been texted, by the way, congratulations by so many people, and they're probably going to be nasty and and vulgar and all that stuff. But as you see, Benny Johnson's tweet up on screen there, which is Cartman, it's Cartman. It's Cartman is playing Charlie Kirk, which is pretty cool. And also, you see the security guy behind and the water bottle. Let's put some of these up on screen. Benny Johnson says, Cartman is playing Charlie Kirk on the next episode of South Park, and it's great honor pop culture can bestow upon you.
Of course, Charlie Kirk would say being featured as Cartman is a total honor. The jokes just write themselves here.
And this shows that the cultural impact that we are making at Turning Point USA cannot even be ignored by the professional comedians at Comedy Central. And look, the left killed comedy. We didn't. We did do some research, and we have been told that it's a very rare cultural accomplishment as a conservative to kind of be profiled on this program.
Not really, because South Park has absolutely made fun of conservatives before. They had several episodes making fun of President George H.W. Bush, and also several episodes making fun of Kanye West as well. That's kind of the whole thing with South Park in general. It doesn't really matter what area of the political spectrum you fall on. If they can see a way to make fun of you, they will. Nothing is really sacred on this show at all, and in a lot of ways, that's what makes it great. But don't worry, guys, clearly they don't go after conservatives at all, according to Charlie Kirk here.
Charlie Kirk, congratulations, man. You made it. It's wild because I'm pretty sure South Park is older than Charlie is.
Yeah. Also, this is really funny to me because clearly they didn't do their research at all. South Park is actually not older than Charlie Kirk. South Park started airing in 1997. Charlie Kirk was born in 1993. Charlie Kirk is currently 31. South Park is 28. Somehow, despite being younger than Charlie, South Park is completely owning him here. Which, realistically, ultimately isn't that hard to do anyway if you just know anything about how the world works, which South Park very much does, thankfully. This whole video of him and the others trying to cope about being featured on South Park is really funny, and I recommend you look it up for yourself. Overall, I would say this was yet another brilliant episode and a great addition to this new season as well. Matt and Trey brilliantly lampooned Trump again, and I guess we'll see if the White House chooses to respond to this episode as well, like they did the last one. I am also very curious to see whether ICE will respond to this or not, and what may come of that, too. It does seem that Matt and Trey are gonna keep ribbing anti-woke grifters and also the Trump administration throughout this entire season, which is awesome. I guess it's only a matter of time to see whether Trump does actually sue Paramount again or not, so I guess we'll see what comes of this. But what do you think of this episode? Did you enjoy it? Do you think it was up to snuff with the previous episode? Or did you not like it at all? Let me know in the comments below. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video or learned something new from it. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like and also consider subscribing as well. I do plenty of videos about film and animation overall, so if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy the other videos I have planned as well. If there's a specific topic you think I should cover here on YouTube, comment it down below, or consider joining my Discord where you can contact me directly through the questions and suggestions channel that we have there. You can also communicate with a lot of like-minded animation and film fans overall there. You can also check out my letterbox to see movies and shows that I've seen before that I haven't reviewed here on YouTube. And you can also check out my socials on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, all those are linked down below as well. Special thanks to my patrons and YouTube members Trayvon Gibson, Jared the Rabbit, David Deister, You the Guardian, DDC1996, and Valve Games for supporting me over there as well. And I appreciate you for coming to the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. But for now, I've been Otterly Noah, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye!
And together we'll make sure everyone is in this country legally.
Fuck off!